Well, welcome to this YouTube game preview with myself, Kevin McNamara from WPRO and KevinMacSports.com. This time, my guest, Brendan McGair from the Call Times, the newly rebranded Call Times. But Brendan, of course, has been following the Friars for many, many years. Brendan, welcome to my Zoom previews.
Kevin, great to be with you and coming to you from my new abode here in
like it.
Last time we talked, we're on a different street, but you can see the lovely kitchen in the background. I got to get that fancy background like you, but we're working on it. Still unpacking some boxes here.
Well, you could always use the blur option, which isn't bad. But then again, you have a beautiful kitchen. You actually used to have a nice piece of art behind you. Did that travel with you? Was that right above your shoulder?
Right above the same, I had figured I have some space right there. We might as well put up the old Narragansett Brewery artwork. So, yep. So basically, it's still kind of the same in that regard.
Well, your Picasso is on order. Maybe you should be receive it by Christmas time, Brendan. A little housewarming present that is coming your way.
Excellent. We'll talk to a few folks to make that happen. But looking forward to talking a little Friar hoop here, Kevin, after a big win the other night against Wisconsin, and looking forward to this weekend set in the Bahamas.
Yeah, neither one of us will be in the Bahamas. But by the way, fans, the games are on CBS Sports Channel, CBS Sports Network, I guess it's called. And they're going to play 6 o'clock on Friday. So this is the deal. On Friday, you come on and listen to the Kevin Mac Sports Hour. I start at 5 o'clock on 790 The Score, 790 a.m. If you're in Providence area, I can pick it up everywhere, or you can stream it. You know, if you live in Connecticut, you live in Oklahoma, you live in California, very easy. Just 790 a.m. here in Providence from 5 to 6. And then John Rook and Joe Hassett will take over, calling the game at 6 o'clock. And it'll be a difficult game. The Friars play Kansas State, a Kansas State team that is off to a 2-1 start. They have lost to Southern Cal. I saw the second half of that game. Southern Cal has maybe the best freshman in the country in Isaiah Collier, and Kansas State kept coming at them. It was a very competitive game before a loss. Since then, had one easy win and then took care of South Dakota State. Really offensively exploded against South Dakota State. Two really good guards. Tyler Perry, he's a transfer from North Texas. Little guy, about 6 foot, 6'1", can really, really shoot the ball. He's averaging 20 a game. And then Cam Carter. Cam Carter has had some success with the Wildcats in the past. He averages 10. And then Friar fans will be familiar with one of their starting forwards, Arthur Kaluma, the transfer from Creighton. He's been very inconsistent, didn't score, missed every shot he took against Southern Cal, but I think we know he's pretty good. And then, as you would say, Brennan, old friend Will McNair. I think Will comes off the bench as the first big guy for Kansas State. We'll see. Could also be in the starting lineup. But, Brendan, what we would expect Kansas State to be, athletic, fast, different than Wisconsin because of their athleticism.
Yeah, just going back to last game of Wisconsin, I thought the Friars did a great job imposing their will and getting out in transition and really, leaving Wisconsin in the dust, Kevin. I don't think that's going to be the case on Friday night. You highlighted Carter and Perry. That's a good guard combination who, they're going to not be dismayed if Devin Carter or Jade Pierre or even Garway Dual get in their face a little bit. They'll be staying toe-to-toe and, has the potential to be a track meet.
Yeah, I did want to circle back to Wisconsin a little bit because I thought Kim English hit it on the head afterwards. He said, it was a clash of styles. The Friars want to play fast. I'll be curious how fast they do want to play, because if you look back to that Milwaukee game, boy, that was really up and down. I think I'd have to look, but quite a few possessions in that, like a really rock fight possessions. 71 possessions in that game. That's a lot of possessions. And I think Kansas State would be happy to be well into the 70s as well. So that matchup that you talked about is really going to be important. Good for the Friars that they could impose their will against a Wisconsin team that had no interest in running with Providence. I'll be curious how fast Providence does want to play, because they are equipped to really get it up and down with all of their ball handlers and slashing scorers, highlighted, of course, as you said, by Carter, by Bryce Hopkins, and certainly Jaden Pierre as well.
Yeah, they definitely have the ability with having multiple guys outside of maybe Josh Oduro. I think anybody who gets the rebound and pushes the ball has the ability to get out on the fast break for the Friars. So it's a definitely a different style than we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing Ed Cooley kind of pull in the front court and run a lot of screens, a lot of motion to get guys shots. But it looks like, at least in the early going, that Kim English is committed to pushing the tempo.
Yeah, and use the shot clock. Cooley had an awful lot of possessions that would end in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock. I don't think that's the goal at all under this offense. Did want to talk about Jaden Pierre a little bit, Brendan. Obviously, we watched him last year show an awful lot of potential. Didn't see a lot of time, or extended time anyways, with the Friars. I'm not surprised that he's off to a good start. That said, I think this game, especially both games in the Bahamas, is going to keep asking more and more of Jaden Pierre. I'll be interested to see if he keeps making steady progress.
And I think the one thing that maybe we didn't know about Jaden Pierre last year, because you mentioned, Kevin, he didn't get a lot of time, was his ability to hit outside shots. We saw him shoot the ball at a good clip the other night against Wisconsin. And I think, the people I'm sure you talked to and I talked to think that maybe Jaden Pierre is the best outside shooter on this year's Friar roster.
Could be, yeah. He could be. And I also think over time, and maybe as soon as Friday night, the combination of Jaden and Garway Dual, I want to see that combo. I think, the days of, 2 point guards, and yeah, they are both point guards, but as you said, Jaden shoots the ball well enough that, they can play together. I want to see that combination. And Kim English has talked about that possibility a little bit with us, correct?
Yes, he has. And we saw, I thought, a lot more in the Milwaukee game with Jaden and Garway out there extensively at the same time together. And, you're right. We're not used to seeing maybe 2 point guards out there. I think, previously we saw Chris Dunn and Kyron Cartwright. That's one combination that springs to mind in terms of having two ball handlers out there at the same time. But they weren't out there for the extensive stretch that I saw the other night against Milwaukee. It's great to see them do that. And, maybe that allows, one or the other to become more of an offensive attack threat. And, we shouldn't sleep on Garway Dual either as an outside shooter. He's been a pleasant surprise from the perimeter as well.
I agree. He shot the ball better than I thought. But, when it's time for Devin Carter to take a little break, or Ticket Gaines to take a break, the possibility of Garway in there as well is exciting for sure. Talk a little bit about Ticket Gaines, because he's a guy who we saw was productive in the Atlantic 10, battled injury last year. He's growing on me, Brendan. He's got a very unique body because he's so long. You wonder who he can actually guard in the Big East. And I asked Kim English this. He said he can guard anybody. And he might be right, because he's so quick. He can guard smaller guys, and his length does give him a chance to compete against really anybody on the perimeter.
He's wiry, Kevin, I think, too. That's another thing that's a great attribute of his. And, just the ability to maybe slide in the course of a defensive possession. We like to see a lot of switching. Maybe he can go guard the 1, and then all of a sudden he's guarding the 3. I think there's a lot of defensive versatility with Ticket Gaines, and you can take advantage of that within the course of a defensive possession.
No, you throw in, Bryce Hopkins can get out on smaller guys too. Really, 1 through 4, they will switch. They will switch and be very aggressive that way. Wanted to take it to the big guys. I think at some point, and probably will happen in the Bahamas, could happen against Will McNair and the other big guys who Kansas State has. I know I do like Colbert. He's a really big, strong guy, and also I believe it's David Nguisan. He 6'9", 230, very strong guy. Certainly a challenge for Josh Oduro. Josh has been very productive, especially offensively. I think Friar fans always jump to the offense and say, wow, he was 6 for 6 against Wisconsin. I like that he helped Providence out-rebound Wisconsin. That if you asked me at the start of that game, could Providence out-rebound Wisconsin, I'd say absolutely not. That would be the one thing I'd really have concern. And I think Oduro only had 3 rebounds, but he boxes out really well, keeps his man off the glass. The combination of him and Raphael has really, really been better than I thought. And I think that the progress of both of them together, and I think they will need both together this weekend in the Bahamas is, again, exciting for the Friars.
I think maybe you were thinking the same thing the other night, Kevin, when Josh Oduro picked up 2 fouls and Kim English had no choice to go take him in there, and then he's putting in Slim Castro, who, we're finally getting to see him. It's his 3rd year in the program, play extensive minutes. Would he be able to hold up against the taller Wisconsin front line? And I think for the most part he did hold his own, but that's going to be the challenge for Castro. When Josh Oduro gets in foul trouble, can he come in there and stabilize the front court? Because otherwise, you run the option of playing Bryce Hopkins at the 5, and I don't think Kim English wants to do that with his best player trying to tax him even more defensively.
Yeah, I think in moments, in a pinch, he's happy to see that because it forces the opposing big guy to get out and guard on the perimeter, so that kind of play it both ways. And by the way, I like how you go with Slim Castro and I go with Raphael. I mean, because why not? We touch all the bases here.
Absolutely. But, just about Castro again, Kevin, this is the first time we're really seeing him get extensive minutes. He was a red shirt when PC made their great run to the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago. We saw him in drips and drabs during the non-conference portion last year, hardly at all during the Big East portion. And, I think it was important for Kim English to retain him. And then all of a sudden you see, we can talk about Will McNair a little bit. I think if you look at maybe the progress by Rafael Castro over the summer, he basically dispatched Will McNair as the primary big man off the bench. And Will McNair saw the tea leaves come September and thinking, it's my final year of college basketball. I'm not going to stick around for this. And, he went back in the old portal.
Yeah, interesting. So the Friars go to Spain over the summer, and Castro is kind of an eye-opening player. I think anyone who watches Providence practice, he jumps off the court because he's the most athletic big guy they have by far. He looks like an NBA player. 6'10", can really run and plays above the rim. Will McNair, opposite. I as a coach, as Kim English, I'd love both of them. That said, that's a luxury. As you said, Will McNair is a 5th-year senior. He wants to play. I'll be really interested to see how much he does play Friday night, how much he plays all weekend for Kansas State and throughout this season, and compare it to what Castro plays. I'm thrilled to see Castro develop. That said, I think Providence lacks a 270-pound, 6'10", 6'11" guy off the bench. Again, a great luxury. They had it last year with Moore, right? I think they would happily take one again, but just didn't happen this year. So I do think they're one big man short, but again, a bench luxury that not every team can have.
No, they can't. And maybe with Castro out there, he's not a classic, I'm going to throw the ball into the post, kind of let him go to work. And you can run a little bit more different offense for him, getting him more pick and pop situations. We saw the other night, Kevin. He was on the verge of throwing down a wicked one-handed slam from the baseline.
I kind of compare him a little bit to the former Celtic Robert Williams. You don't have to throw the ball to him. You don't have to run a play for him. You ask him to do 2 things: screen and rebound. If you want to score, go get it off the glass. Go get a dive cut to the rim. Again, very good passers. This Providence team is filled with good passers. That they will find Rafael Castro around the rim, whether it's a lob, whether it's a handoff. He'll be able to get his points around the rim without throwing the ball into him in the post. I think Oduro certainly is a good post player and will get plenty of touches in the post. I just wonder, does his size limit his ability when he runs up against an occasional 7-footer? May not see that this weekend in the Bahamas, but eventually we'll see that in the Big East. The other question this weekend, Jerome Tang, young coach at Kansas State, one of the breakout coaches in the country last year. We know, obviously, the Friars are fortunate to win. They'll play either Miami or Georgia. Miami will be favored to win that game. Jim Larinaga, the former Friar star, the other side, he's had some success against his alma mater. Kim English, young coach. This is going to be a consistent theme, Brendan. Kim English, the young coach, going against more experienced coaches. It's survival of the fittest. Someone has to be the young coach, right? And it just happens to be the Friar coach. So far, so good, but keep raising the bar as you go through this schedule.
Yeah, and I wonder too, like you go back to the Big East Media Day, Kevin, when the Friars were picked seventh, and you look at the talent on paper, and you're thinking, okay, is it better than St. John's? Is it better than Xavier? And then you get to the coaching component where Sean Miller and then Rick Pitino, coaches who have been at big games before, and maybe that's why the Friars were picked where they were, just because of the relative unknown with the coach. And I think that's why, at least psychologically, that's why it was such a big win for them the other night against Wisconsin. Kim English, he passed his first true big test as the Friar coach, welcoming a top 25 Ken Palm team to the Amica Mutual Pavilion and winning. But now you got to keep it going. And you're right. Once the Big East rolls around, he's going to be matched up with one star coach after another. And can he match fire to fire with what he's got, as opposed to a coach who might have more experience against him on the other sideline?
Hey, great opportunity for the Friars this weekend for sure. I think I said after they asked the coach after the Wisconsin, when you go to the Bahamas and fortunate to win twice, you'll probably be ranked. And he was like, well, I'm happy to be ranked, but I'd rather have, a quad 1 and quad 2 wins and be high in the net and behind the Ken Palm. So, hey, Kim English is a young coach. He's up on all the metrics. That's his focus more than top 25 rankings that I'm sure the fans would gladly take. I think the Friars come out 5-0. They'll be a very, very happy flight home from the Bahamas on Sunday night.
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought that up, because I was kind of doing a little research before we came on, Kevin, about the metric component. I go back to last year's non-conference schedule for the Friars, and they lost all three of their.
It wasn't good. It was not good.
And it was almost like Ed Cooley was banking on the strength of the Big East to kind of bail them out a little bit. And we saw what happened. They got 12, 13 wins and were able to go dancing despite kind of hitting a little bit of skid at the end there. But that's why I think that Kim English referenced the importance of the Ken Palm and the net. And that's why this Wisconsin win has the potential to be very good. The Friar fans should be rooting for them for the rest of the year, because that will look good once the NCAA selection committee sits down and tries to map out their field of 68.
For sure. But Wisconsin, God bless them. Good luck to them. If that's their worst game of the season, good for the Friars. They need to play a lot better to win games in the Big Ten than they played the other night at the AMP. Brendan, I got to let you go. You got to get ready for high school football this weekend. Got to be ready for the Friars on Friday night. Again, Friday night, 6 o'clock. You can catch the game on TV on CBS Sports Network, but more importantly, turn the volume down and listen on WPRO. John Rook and Joe Hassett. Thanks very much. Again, you can catch my show Monday through Friday from 5 to 7 on 790 The Score, on WPRO from 6 to 7. Also, KevinMaxSports.com. Brendan, tell everybody where they can read your stuff.
Well, you can read it on PawtucketTimes.com, WoonSocketCall.com, and you can follow me along on, I guess we call it X now. It's still Twitter in my book, BW McGair 03.
And I'm Kevin McNamara 33 on the X as well. So all good. Brendan, thanks very much. We'll see you soon.
Kevin, take care.